So one thing I did not know is that Jon Hamm used to be your teacher.
Is that crazy? I
Like,
know.
tell me this story, please.
I'm sighing because what a turn. I mean, like, what good fortune that is.
Yeah.
So Jon Hamm, the Prince, Jon Hamm, went to my high school. He's 10 years older than I am. I'm very young.
Yeah,
No, I'm kidding.
yeah.
But he's 10 years older than I am, and he went to my high school, went to college, graduated, came back and taught theater for a year, and I was a freshman in high school by that point.
Wow.
So he taught me the improvisation section of my 9th grade theater class, and he was certainly like, he had that charisma back then. It was before Mad Men and all this, obviously, but of course, like you have, a young, talented teacher who's handsome teaching you theater. Everyone's like, oh, we called him Mr. Hamm. I had to pause. I thought, we didn't call him John, but we called him Mr. Hamm.
Mr. Hamm.
Mr. Hamm. And then a few years later, you start seeing him, or no, many years later, I guess, you start seeing him on the sides of buses. He's Don Draper, and you think, oh my gosh, he taught me theater. But that man, I know I don't need to convince anyone, he is just a prince among men. I emailed him. I looked him up on our high school alumni website. And I emailed him. I was out in LA doing my one-person show when I was 27. So last year. No, this was 12 years ago. And I can't do the math. It was not that long ago. It doesn't matter. It was 10 years ago.
Like a decade.
A decade. And he emailed back right away. I invited him to the show. He's like, I should be out of work by 5. I would love to make it. And there he was in the front row.
Wow.
Yes, he's with a St. Louis Blues cap. The only thing is, it was a little distracting because everyone was like, Jon Hamm's in the audience. Yeah. I was like,
what's his teaching style? Do you remember learning anything specific?
He taught me the central tenet of improv, which is yes and. So a free improv lesson, when you are given a statement in an improv scene, your fellow performer is to accept the truth of that statement and to build on it. So yes, what you just said is true, and here I'm going to build on this. And so he taught me that, although I seem unable to describe it succinctly. But so that is what he taught me. He's low key. It's so funny because the character of Don Draper, I think, is so intense.
Yes, very intense.
And then I love seeing him show up in 30 Rock and SNL and be so funny because anyway, it's hard, I would think, to do both things as exceptionally as he does.
So did he remember you when you went to that show? Was
Yes.
he like, oh, that's good?
Oh my gosh, he's like, oh, yes, of course in the email I said, you taught me. I don't know if you remember. And he's like, of course I remember you.
That's amazing.
He is a good actor. Maybe he was pretending to remember me, but if he was, that's all the same to me. And he always asks about my mom. He's like, how's your mom doing? Now, how nice is that?
Yeah.
True
Gentleman.
Yeah.